Since we spoke at the very beginning about life as creation as a narrative, and then we spoke about what could be misunderstood as darkness as the downside, I'd like to, as the arc moves forward, bring this together in our third session, the mystical ecology of daily life. This means that DI, divine intelligence, its function raises sparks, which stands in contrast to the AI's function of monetizing data traces. The smallest acts of awareness can change the meaning of ordinary life. I remember once I bumped into an old friend of mine in a restaurant in New York City that was just random, so to speak, in quotes. And that ended up being one of the best business deals I ever did in my life. At the time, I thought, well, it seemed ordinary, but later I realized that this event carried tremendous hidden sparks. As a fact, I'll even tell you, Forbes magazine wrote a whole page article on that meeting, and they titled it The Accidental Deal, and ended it with the idea of mazal, which I'll explain a little bit more since we mentioned it in the previous session. Mazel, people often think means luck, like mazel tov, good luck, but that's not really what it means. Mazel, or in its plural, mazolot, it's actually the horoscope. It's the astrological influences that impact upon all of us. Even when the Gemara says, Ein mazel b'Yisrael, if you read the Marsha there carefully, you'll see that of course Israel has a mazal. It's just that we're not locked into it, but it is our default. So the mazal impacts everybody. What makes successful impact and mazal is hidden in three letters. Mem, the first letter of mazal, means makom, the place. Zayin, the second letter, means zman, it's the time. And lamed is for the word la'asot, which means to do. Doing the right thing in the right place at the right time brings mazal into one's life. We all have those kind of small moments. A kind word from a stranger, a meal that restores us, a song we overhear, that feel trivial at first, but leave us glowing. Jewish mysticism says those are sparks waiting for us to notice them. Imagine life as a great field full of diamonds, but each diamond is covered in a thin layer of dust. Every time you eat, speak, or act with awareness, you brush off the dust and reveal the jewel. God has scattered the sparks through the shattering of the vessels. Shattering of the vessels was at a very early stage of creation. One way it's understood is that in the degradation or the diminution of creation, each level was unable to hold God's light, and therefore it just popped until finally it got dark and dark and dark, that it was dark enough that whatever divine light was still held within it, it could hold on to it. That's the level of Malkut, that's kingdom. That is the world that we live in. It's the furthest and the darkest there is, which is a very interesting thing I'd like to sidetrack for a minute. There's a little bit of a joke, but it's got a deep meaning to it. There's three young Hasidim arguing between each other, saying, each one claiming my rabbi is greater than your rabbi. And the first one says some amazing miracle that his rabbi did. And the second one laughs and he tells a miracle that his rabbi did, which was twice as amazing. And then the third one says, are you kidding? That's nothing. My rabbi is so great that whatever my rabbi says, God does it. Tzaddik goes there. There's nothing like that. And at that moment, a student of the Chafetz Chaim happened to be walking by. Not Hasidic at all, but he heard them. And he interrupted. He says, excuse me, gentlemen. Actually, you know what? My rabbi is greater than all of your rebbes. And they looked at him. What, are you nuts? What are you talking about? Didn't you hear what the third guy said? Everything his rebbe says, God does. What could be greater than that? And so the gentleman says, I'll tell you, my rabbi is so great that whatever God says, my rabbi does. Because that's the world we're in now, kingdom. The opportunity to be in the darkest of the darkest and through our actions to create God's light in the world. The Baal Shem Tov says that every encounter and object has a spark waiting for you to lift through your kavanah, through your intentions. Even a leaf blown to shade a worm is providence. Nothing is random, so nothing is small. Rabbi Nachman says that finding the good point is called the nekuda tova in each person is itself redemptions of sparks. That's why things like lashon hara, making fun of somebody, calling somebody by an awful nickname and so on, these are horrible because they classify a person. They take away the breathing, growing, changing, transforming nature of a person and say, oh yeah, this guy's an idiot. That's the hara of lashon hara. But actually, it's deceptive because really it just means that you haven't looked deep enough into that person to see their tzelem Elokim, to see that they're created in the image of God, to see their sparks. If God doesn't make any two snowflakes the same, can you imagine that he doesn't make any two human beings the same? What I have, you don't have, and what you have, I don't have. But together, we have much more. And that's when we overcome the superficial views that we hold of each other and we see the divine spark that lives inside of them. In fact, Zusha, the famous Hasidic Rebbe Zusha, he was so aware of this idea that it's told that he even learned 7 things from a thief. Imagine that. The first thing he learned from a thief was one should serve God with similar modesty and secrecy like the thief. Number 2, like a thief, take risks for their goals. Number 3, pay meticulous attention to detail. Number 4, invest great effort and diligence. 5, act with eagerness. 6, maintain optimism. And 7, show persistence by trying again after failure. This is divine intelligence of raising sparks versus the artificial intelligence of monetizing data. Mysticism says every act lifts a hidden spark. AI systems also pays close attention to our smallest activity, although it is to harvest our daily acts, clicks, likes, searches, not to raise them, but to monetize them. DI redeems, AI exploits. What's the practical takeaway for us from all of this? Nothing is just ordinary. Eating, speaking, walking, meeting someone, each is a chance to raise a spark and bring light into the world. The nekuda tova. Find one good point in a person and you redeem a spark right inside of them. The ordinary encounter, a bus chat, a checkout smile, a helpful email, each may hold a spark awaiting you.